Hi, I'm Wanda from Alanda Craft, and today I'm going to show you how to make a quick and easy table runner. We have a little trick on how to put this together that makes it so simple, you're going to love it. So let's get on and just show you how to do it. So you're going to need 4 different fabrics. Now you'll decide on which ones you want to have for your centerpiece, and so I've done that here. And I'm going to cut those, or I have cut those, at 6.5 inches wide by the width of the fabric. So that's those 2 pieces. Then you need some border pieces. Now these are cut at 2.5 inches by the width of the fabric. And you could use jelly roll strips for those, but I've cut my own. You'll also need some fabric for your binding, your backing, and you'll need a piece of batting. Now I've trimmed the salvages from one end. I've only done one end because that's all I need. We're not going to be using right through this whole strip. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place these strips one on top of the other, and then I'm going to sew them together with a 1/4 inch seam. Now you can pin this if you wish, I'm not going to, but we do the whole strip with a 1/4 inch seam. So I've sewn these 2 pieces together, so that's my centerpiece. Now I'm taking one of each colour of my border pieces, and I'm going to do the same thing. I've cut the selvage off at one end, and you can see that that's going to give me a nice straight line along here, whereas the ends are going to be all different sizes because of the width of the fabric. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing here. I'm going to turn this piece over so that it's right sides facing, and I'm going to sew down there with a 1/4 inch seam, and I'll do this exact same thing on this side. So I'll turn it over like that, and I'll sew it down here with a 1/4 inch seam. So I have the 4 strips sewn together, and you can see this is reasonably straight, although I will give it a slight trim just to make sure it's absolutely straight. And you can see why I didn't bother cutting the salvages off the other end, because they're all different. These widths of fabric were all different lengths. I've turned my fabric round so that I can give it a trim, and I've lined up my ruler on the centre line, and you can see all my seam lines line up nicely on a line with the ruler, and I'm just going to go and give that a slight trim. Okay, so now I have a nice straight edge to work with. Now because I'm right-handed, I'm going to have to turn my fabric around to cut it, so I'll just do that. I've got to be very careful because Paula's just beautifully ironed this. Okay, so I get my ruler, and I'm going to line it up with the 6.5 inch mark. Okay, so it's my 6.5 inch mark there. I'm going to cut, and I'm going to do that all the way down that strip. So I should end up with 6 of them. Let's hope we do. So as you can see, I've cut all my strips at 6.5 inches, and this is what I was left with. That's why I didn't bother cutting the salvages off that end. So that piece can go into your crumb quilting stash. And another thing that I need to mention is, as you can see here, the seams are all pressed the same way, and that's important because that will help you with your next step, which is we're going to now flip every second set of blocks like that. Okay, so now I'm going to take the first 2, put them one on top of the other, and now because of the way it was pressed, you can see that those are going to nest beautifully together. And then I'll just pin those and sew them with a 1/4 inch seam all the way down. And I'll do that with each set and then join the lot together. So as you can see, I've sewn these together in lots of 2, and now I'm just going to sew these together so that they form the whole row. So here we go, I'll put that one over there, and then when I've done that, I'll add this one onto here as well. So it's coming together nicely. You can see here I've got it all sewn together now. So our next step is to make the borders for the top and the bottom, and then that will finish our top off. So I've taken my 2 remaining strips, and from those strips what I've done is I've cut 2 pieces at 6.5 and 2 at 2.5, and I've done that for each of them. And you will have a quite long strip left over, but you can use that in another project. So then what we need to do is we take one of each, like this, and we're going to sew them together like that. So each will be sewn with a 1/4 inch seam. So I have my top and bottom border pieces now sewn together and pressed, and what we did was made sure that to check which way these seams were going so that we could do these in the opposite direction, and as you can see that's what's happened. So they will nest nicely together, so I'll pin those and sew that on, and I'll do exactly the same with the other end. So there you have it. I have sewn it all together and I think it looks great. So now all you need to do once you've got it to this stage is to decide how you're going to finish it. Now you can do it as the turn through method, which means you cut your batting and your backing the same size as the top and then sew the 3 pieces together and turn it through. Or you can do what I've done with this one and you can finish it off by adding your backing and then adding a binding. Bindings always look nice, and if you have trouble with binding, we do have a tutorial on our website on how to do a binding around your quilt. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel.